This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, welcome to Josh Has Autism.
Hello.
I am here with Joshua, and we are glad to be here. Last
You just said my name really weird.
Joshua. Somebody just asked me that the other day. They go, "Oh, the dentist. Oh, by the way, I made a dental appointment for you."
No.
I know, but it's not until February, and we'll be okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can even go check it out if you want to before the actual appointment, so you feel more comfortable, what have you.
Okay.
Anyway, we were talking about it, and they were saying what's his name, and they're putting you in the computer and everything, and who's the appointment for? I said Josh.
Mm-hmm.
And that's his name. I go, well, Joshua, and he said, what does he prefer to be called? And I said, Josh or Buddy, and he answers to both. And she said, which one does he prefer? And I said, I think he's fine with either one, really. Yeah. But, Josh is fine. If everybody wants to just call him Josh, that's fine.
Yeah.
But
and it's not even a thing of not knowing me. It's just, it doesn't fit. At this point, it really doesn't matter to me.
All right, because you answered to both?
Yeah.
Right. Well, you were Buddy for a long time growing up.
Yeah.
Your dad just called you Buddy.
Yeah.
So that's how it kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that.
And the only reason I stopped really being called that was because now that's Connor's nickname. That's what he's sometimes referred to as is Buddy.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
I called him. I said, I referred to him as the little man, and he stopped what he was doing. He goes, "What'd you say?" I said, "Little man." He goes, "Who's that?" I go, "That's you." I'm calling you a little man. He goes, "Oh." He was okay with that.
Yeah.
So yes, that's funny. But yes, so the last time that we talked, we're going to continue on like with a little twist, a little variation of what we were talking about last time. But I did want to, before we do anything else, to thank everybody for your messages and love that was sent to Dave. He did have double pneumonia, and it just was getting worse and worse, and he wasn't able to do much of anything last week. And he is our guy that puts this up and sends it to you.
Yeah.
And without him, I don't know how to do it, so it doesn't happen. So he was sick. So anyway, thank you for all the kind thoughts and sentiments sent his way. We really appreciate it, and he's doing much, much better finally.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
So why is it called double pneumonia? Is it because it's in both lungs or something?
I guess it is, yeah.
Because that's just weird to me that it's called double pneumonia. I don't know.
Like it's doubly bad.
Yeah, it's
right.
like pneumonia's bad to begin with. What?
Yeah. Well, they say that when you get pneumonia, it's in one lung. And so I think you're absolutely right about that, is that it's double pneumonia because it was in both lungs.
Okay.
It's weird. It's kind of like going through all of this. One of the doctors said that it would, in the beginning before he got really sick, said, well, I would think that you have pneumonia, but it's in both lungs. So here, take some steroids and some, codeine cough medicine, and he just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And then scans later and tests later and different, at the fourth doctor, finally, it's like, yeah, this is what you have. You need rest and rest and rest. But that's why he was so weak.
Mm.
He wasn't, breathing very well, was coughing constantly.
Yeah.
And there's this thing, too, called walking pneumonia. I don't know if you ever heard of that, where
I've heard of it, don't really know what it is.
Yeah, where you can function okay during the day, you lay down at night to go to bed and you just cough all night long and having a hard time breathing and everything. So it's like you can walk around fine, but as soon as you lay down, you can't breathe. Dad had that one time years ago. You were a little bitty guy. You were. So were we. So was I. We Dad and I fit in the twin bed at Nana's house way back then.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
yeah, yeah.
Well, you were smaller?
Yeah, I was. Well, I meant less wide, not shorter in height. I know you're shaking your head, Nick. You're not. Yeah, I know. Anyway, so I did want to take today in this podcast to like finish up talking. Well, we kind of finished up the last time. We're talking about having like this paradigm shift,
Mm-hmm.
and how you just felt different about things. That it wasn't that you were not, how I was saying before, or you wouldn't be able to do something because you would say like that won't work because of this or because of that, and you had a hard time getting started on things for yourself, like remembering to do things, and you know how we've always talked about lists and what have you.
Yeah.
But something has changed. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you said something, and I want to just repeat to you what you said to me, and I'd like for you to explain it. All right? Because what you said was that you recognize. Here, I wrote it down. It's. I'm reading it. These are your words, so this is like I'm speaking as you. You said, I do recognize my mentality having shifted from the please explain so I can understand thoroughly in order to help, to being more, please tell me what to do in this moment to be of help.
Yeah.
Explain that to me.
So, it might not sound like a whole lot. Like, they sound very similar, right?
They do.
But it's the way that it's approaching things.
Okay.
So, please explain so I can understand thoroughly in order to help. Is the first one.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, I want to be able to understand what it is I'm being asked to do as a whole.
In detail.
So that I can help, so I can actually do something to help with knowledge of what I'm doing.
Which sounds very reasonable. Like you saying it, yes, that sounds very reasonable, but it would stop you.
Yeah, and it would make everything stop.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would only be able to intake so much at a time, let alone retain much of it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And which would then stop it again later, and I would also try and offer different options, different ways. Hey, can this be done this way to be better and easier, or what have you?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's never been a thing where I'm trying to be combative or whatever about stuff. It's always been, I want to help. I want to help what's going on.
Yep.
And I want to make it easier for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Will this work this way? No. What about like this? No, please just do it. Well, why? Why?
Wait,
and that was, from my perspective, what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that didn't work.
Well, if I could just say, it's because it's this thing, what you just described, we've talked about before on the podcast, where an example is when your dad needed help with something, how you would not be able to help until you got the full explanation of the, the whys of every step of the way. And we would try to explain to you, well, he just needs you to hold this right here so he can do what he's doing. And so all that is required is for you to hold this steady where it is. And for example, and it would be so difficult because you want to know all the details about all of it. We've joked before and talked about how you needed a 20-minute explanation about what was about to happen for something that was going to take 2 minutes. But then, by the time that explanation went on, you're too exhausted by the explanation.
And you guys are already fed up about it.
And frustrated. I wouldn't say fed up, but
right.
Frustrated. I will acknowledge when that happened, there were times, over and over and over and over again. I mean, I guess
it got to the point of being fed up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you needed a thorough explanation before you could start anything in the past. And even with that thorough explanation, there was something in the way of you accomplishing it or moving forward.
Right. And so from that, and this is reiterating the first part, please explain so I can understand thoroughly in order to help.
Yes.
That is, in sentence form at least, only slightly different than what it's become, which is...
Because there's been a shift.
Right.
That was the way that you've been up until a few weeks ago.
Yeah. And now it is more, please tell me what to do in this moment to be of help.
Well, yes, yes. That is very different, isn't it?
Yeah. It's sentence form, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
But the approach of even in that verbiage, the approach that it's going towards is vastly different.
Right. Explain how that feels different for you.
So I'm not asking for the whole. I'm asking, what can I do as of this moment that can be of help to you right now?
Holy moly. That's a huge change.
Yeah. And it's... it's not even that it's... oh my gosh. I'm trying to find the words again. So it's not... I'm trying to...
This has been something that's been so difficult in your life. When somebody's asking you for something and requesting that you accomplish something. So last week we were talking about how you kind of initiate what you needed to do. And up until this point, it's been very difficult for you to regulate and to be able to accomplish something that wasn't even, not necessarily something that you didn't want to do, but it's just something that you didn't know the outcome, and that would keep you from doing it. So that's kind of what we talked about last week. But this is a huge part of it as well, which is you used to have this, it's kind of the same thing, like this block that wouldn't let, would not allow you to move forward with taking action. And what you thought you needed was an explanation. And when you got the explanation, turned out that wasn't what you needed. Right. But we didn't know what you needed.
Right.
We didn't know how to help you through that. And now, what you just said, those words that you said, goes from help me to understand why we're doing this to What do you need?
To do this. Yeah.
It's just that simple.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that there aren't still issues that would arise.
Mm-hmm.
Like whenever the I hate this term, but you use it all the time on here, the Josh-ack. I really don't like that term.
Okay, what are you going to come up with? I'll make a sign and hang it above your door.
No.
Pappy has one that says man cave. No?
No.
No? Okay.
No. But
Josh-ack.
But whenever
like
it was
it.
being... No.
No.
But whenever it was being built, there was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff being moved, a lot of stuff needing to be moved.
Correct.
And other stuff was getting in the way of other things, and this,
Yes.
that, and the other.
Yes.
So I never knew where to put stuff.
Right.
And that was one of the big issues that I had.
Yeah.
Was that if I put this here, will it be in the way then the next step?
Mm-hmm.
I was never able to put it in that sort of question.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in hindsight, is really weird that I couldn't. But then again, I'm also looking at things from the perspective that I have now. And which makes a lot of past actions and thoughts or whatever look strange or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's but not knowing if something will cause an issue, like, I can foresee being another step that if I ask if I'm asked to do something, I can ask in the moment, and I understand that. Hey, can I put this here, or will it be in the way of something else?
Mm-hmm. But you couldn't ask that back then.
Right. I don't. It was like a block or something, like yeah, a block, like you had said before. I don't know what was going on with that.
So it's not just that what was going on with that. Like, this has been an ongoing issue now that I'm aware of for about 30 years. Right? So this is not...
More than that.
Well, from the time that you started, bouncing around and stuff, and, would ask you to do something and you would just stop, and so you were a little guy. Yes, it's been about 30 years. This was a huge, huge part of who you have been. It's been a disruptor in your life. It's been something that has caused you to not accomplish things that you've wanted to. It's caused you to feel bad about yourself.
Yeah.
Because, we can say we were frustrated, or we're fed up. But that's from our perspective. But whenever this would happen, you'd feel bad too.
Yeah.
You would feel bad about yourself for not, because it's not your intention to not
help.
Well, right, and that was one of the problems that when we're talking about that out there, I will tell you this much. It was a giant pain in the rear end because we would have, I know, it was a shed. So all of Nana and Pappy's stuff, the shed was built because the addition was being put onto the house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all of the stuff that was been in their portion, their part of the house part of that was already there, but it was getting expanded on, and another room built, and bathroom, kitchen, all that. Anyway, a lot of that stuff went out into the shed. So we built the shed, knowing that then that was going to be your space.
Eventually, yeah.
Yes. So I do know what you're talking about, and there were days and days and days, but it was just such a burden to take that stuff out. So we had room to work on the inside, but then you can't leave it outside, so you had to put it back inside when the work was done for the day.
Yeah.
Just exhausting.
Yeah.
And there was so much stuff. So then we just, I know I know exactly what you're talking about. So that it tripped you up in a way that just made us like, ugh.
Yeah.
We did not want to have to keep doing that.
Right. And let alone with a 20-minute conversation of put this here.
Right, right. Well, I will have to say that we have, even in the last conversation, we talked about how Eric is working with you using the tools with ABA.
Mm-hmm.
As an adult, those are very different than what they're used with kids. That's my observation. I don't know anything about this, right? I know that Connor went through ABA as a kid. Some of the stuff that I saw was kind of hard to see, but because it was harsh, it seemed. But it's so when it comes time, finally in your life, you have been approved for ABA,
Mm-hmm.
first time ever. Eric comes in and has really helped you to see a different way of doing things.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And I don't... Look, you're the one that has done the work here with him helping you and guiding you, but you're the one that's found a way to, I don't know, just to experience your life different. And it's really awesome to see that you're going and you're doing things that I just like watch you sometimes, and I'm not exaggerating here. We are talking about maybe a month now, maybe probably
just
not,
under.
yeah. That this is what we're talking about, these changes. Yeah. So I can see you do something. I can see you start your laundry on your day off and keep doing your laundry until it's done.
Mm-hmm.
I have historically had to prompt you and redirect you and remind you. And here you are starting it and then setting a timer on your phone for when the dryer is going to stop or when the washer is going to stop.
Right.
And keeping
typically the dryer, because the dryer lasts longer
mm-hmm.
than the washer.
Yep. So right. So why would you come in when the washer stopped if you have something in the dryer? Because then you're going to stand there at the washer waiting for the dryer to be done.
Your statement was still correct, though, because the first time is always just the washer.
Yes. Right. But tell me how... First of all, do you know how this changed?
In which way do you mean?
How you were able to go from not being able to do these things to being able to do these things on your own.
I think that part of it is that it just clicked. I remember that. I remember in the last time we did a podcast talking about this, that I had mentioned Helen Keller and
Mm-hmm.
and how whenever she finally understood that the things that she was spelling out were actually what these things were.
Mm-hmm.
Like that she made that connection, that it clicked.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
That it was that was part of what I was feeling about it, was that, oh, so that is part of it. But it
Eric, I've heard him tell you before to not get stuck on the past, on how things used to work, but do your best to be in right now. What do you need to do right now? And not to focus on why something didn't work before or how it was done before, but just be, right here. What do you need to do right now? Right in front of you right now.
So I think that is, you saying that is, I'm trying to put it into words.
Okay.
So having, it's right there. It's right there. In the moment.
Be present.
Yeah. So one of the issues, this is big. So having experience of how things have been and how things have worked, it's very easy to get into a routine based off of that. And trying to change that is very difficult, very not okay for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And even with people that don't have autism.
Correct.
And I think one of the things that occurred was that incorporating that, the in the moment thing, to not have past experience color it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
To have that I'm trying to come up with it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It sounds to me like what you're trying to say is that you have this new understanding that just because something didn't work out in the past doesn't mean that has to dictate how it's going to be now.
Well, not just that, but also the other side of it, where it's worked like this in the past, and it has worked continuously from that point in the past, or as such, it hasn't worked.
Mm-hmm.
But to continue like that is obvious, because it's statistically been like that.
Okay.
So why should I change that? That's the kind of thinking that it's been.
But wasn't it how I can't change that? Isn't that what was part of it as well?
Unsaid, but yes.
Okay.
So to have something change like that, it is very difficult,
Mm-hmm.
for one thing. But to try and not use past knowledge, past experience, what have you, and to try and just do it, to be in the moment, to not live in the past, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big part of it, is that of this change, that I'm not stuck in a rut focusing on how it has been to continue that way into the future,
Mm-hmm.
but to accept things as they are,
Well, you were kind of living in a way that was limiting you on what you were able to do, what you could accomplish, what you could work out. A lot of times physically you could do something, you could have the time to do something, but mentally it wouldn't work because you didn't have all the pieces already answered for you.
not for me, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Not to say that you had to always have somebody spoon feed you the answers to things,
right.
but in your mind, you didn't have all the answers, so therefore you couldn't possibly move forward because you didn't know how it was going to turn out.
Right, and I didn't want to waste time and effort. Right.
Right.
And that was a huge hurdle, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Well, it's so drastic. It's interesting because finding the words to give just a plain, simple answer as to how this happened and why it happened and what's happening now, it seems very complicated to do that, but then to be living it, to see the change, it's as drastic as night and day. I mean, it truly is. It's not the things that you were not able to do a month ago, you're accomplishing now. And the big thing is that there's not the resistance that you've kind of carried with you up until this point. And that's my word. That's not your word.
Right.
It looked like resistance. I'm sure it didn't feel like resistance. I'm sure it felt like
conflict.
Yeah, right, and a weight
Yeah.
that felt heavy that you know, and you. It seemed to me that you would go through the list of things in your mind as to why something couldn't work. And if you didn't have those problems answered, there's no way that you could move forward in something. For years, we had tried to get you to follow a schedule, to use a calendar, to use a list, to use reminders on your phone, to wear that watch that would vibrate to remind you of things. And
Yeah.
You have any clarity on why those things
Did not work at the time?
Yes. Yes.
Because there were too many variables that I couldn't see, that I couldn't put into what I was trying to do to plan it out. There were too many unknowns. Even taking medicine at a certain time in the morning. Like if I had a doctor's visit instead of going to school,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to get up even earlier, do I have to take it now or what? Or
Mm-hmm.
And so it was all like, but what if this? Which really slowed me down very much, hindering what I could do.
Right.
But what if?
Yeah.
Is very much what's the word? Hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
It's whenever I was in middle school and high school, they had the hurdles that, like you'd see, that would have the different heights that it could rise to and everything.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I was usually one of the taller kids in middle school. I was like the second tallest.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever I got in high school, I was a little shrimp again, comparatively. But it was always very... it's like... the reason I brought that up was because, like, being smaller than everyone else and trying to have a hurdle at the highest level or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it couldn't be done. I mean, it could, but it was very impractical,
Mm-hmm.
very difficult to contend.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really would slow me down. And so that analogy works for this, is the but what if.
Mm-hmm.
would really stop me in my tracks.
Mm-hmm.
It would really slow down what I could do, what I was trying to do.
Mm-hmm. And so this shift that you described last time has not only helped you to get past the what ifs that would stop you. Let me just say this. You are who you are. So there are things that you like and there are things that you don't like. And I'm not, it's really.
I'll give an example today.
Okay.
Today, I went out there and cleaned out my car. There's stuff in there that had been in there for, how long have we lived here?
3 years?
About that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A question, would you have done that if Eric wasn't there with you?
It was brought to yours and my attention at that, whenever he was here.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was done then.
Mm-hmm.
But,
He helped you out to get through the process of going through things, and your car is clean now.
yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
This is
And
awesome.
it wasn't even necessarily that he was helping me. He was a support, I guess.
Yeah.
But he wasn't telling me what to do or the order to do things in or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, he held the trash bag.
Right.
And we just talked while I was doing it. That's it.
Yeah. I think he gives you the option all the time if he asks you, like, what do you think about that? What do you what do you want to do with that?
And he lets me just talk things out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And asking too many questions like that is difficult.
Yeah.
It just gets very frustrating.
By anybody when.
But me, really.
Uh-huh.
It gets frustrating to if I'm to hear that constantly. Like,
oh yeah. Right, I see what you're saying, but you're saying that he just was more of a support, was like
just he's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah. And so there, at one point, I had cleaned up as much of the trash itself that I could, because there was a lot in there.
Yeah.
And there were some things that I didn't know what to do with.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because of that, it wasn't even that I didn't know what to do with. It wasn't mine to do with. Like, there was stuff in there that literally years ago you had asked me to bring it to some place to donate.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah. And I, at the time that I had been asked that, I wasn't okay, really. At the time, I really wasn't. There was a lot of issues I was still having. I didn't know where I was going for that stuff. And I didn't know what their hours were if I was to find it. And it was just a lot of unknowns.
Well,
But outside of that,
mm-hmm.
I just wasn't okay to do that at the time.
Right.
And so it just didn't get done.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was stuff out there that was that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There was stuff in there that was my stuff that just never got taken out. Then there were things that had been put in there that was to keep other things from getting onto it or whatever. Like, there was a couple sheets out there. I didn't know if those were from moving, if they had already been in there,
Right.
or what, but they were in there. They were used to keep some of the books that were to be donated to the library clean and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I had eventually gotten a lot of those books donated,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know what to... The sheets were still in there.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know if they were meant for in here or what.
Mm-hmm.
And so I couldn't answer that question because I didn't know.
Right.
So I had to wait to ask you. And
Right.
Dad and Eric were out there Dad especially trying to push me. Where does this go? What do you need done?
Right. Right.
Which, those questions in and of themselves are not pushing me.
Right.
They're to help figure out what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't know, I don't know.
Right.
And it was several questions back to back that were, I don't
Right.
know.
And so the way that Eric interacts with you is sometimes easier, you think?
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Other times it's not so much.
So you still feel pushed sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. And,
I think that's part of his job.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's he doesn't like silence. I don't know if he has said that out loud or not, but I've noticed that is that if I'm trying to gather my words to come out right or whatever, by the time I've started to actually get them coherent,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Did you ever tell him that?
I don't know if I have or not.
Yes, that would be helpful because for you to tell him, to let him know that even if you was to start something, if you were just to hold your finger up like that, let's just get 1 second, 1 second.
Yeah.
That's helpful because people don't always know if you're formulating your thoughts or are you kind of stuck. Do you need guidance? Do you need some prompting?
And those are some questions that have been asked from Eric to me
Yeah.
in that time period, yes.
Yeah. They sound reasonable.
Yeah. And a lot of times, in the past, not just from Eric, but from other people as well, in the past, whenever that occurs or has occurred, it's very easy to distract me from what I'm trying to
Right.
formulate, and I lose what I was about to say.
Right.
And
Yes.
that's
yes.
very distracting and frustrating.
Right. I only know that experience when it comes to writing jokes. If I'm in the middle of something and somebody else starts talking to me, if I'm in the middle of a thought formulating a joke,
Yeah.
and somebody else comes in and talks to me or asks me questions, it will throw me off every time.
Yeah. And you're lucky if you can get anything near as good as what you just thought.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So my suggestion there is to let him know that sometimes for you, getting the words, you need a couple more beats just to be able to, have these words come out of your mouth.
Yeah. And it's not even... that's not even... dang it, it's right there. It's not what I'm trying to say is right there, but I'm having difficulty even thinking what it is I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't... sorry.
You don't know?
No.
Well, what this change that you've experienced, I give you absolute credit for that, to be able to see how things have been and how things can be. And I give Eric absolute credit for guiding you there and being able to help support you in that process and helping you to realize that, yeah, it's the way things used to be, but if you do it this way, why don't you give it a try? Why don't you, it's just right now, today, and just give that a try.
Yeah.
And I think with his support, then, it's just a great teamwork, because he's really getting you to see things that all these years, I certainly didn't know how to do it. But it's wonderful. You seem happier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And lighter, the dogs still bother you, the kids still bother you. That is not, but you even handle that, I think you even handle that better. You just remove yourself,
yeah.
but...
It's not just that, but I'm also giving myself and those situations more of a chance, I guess. Mm-hmm. More of a opportunity to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not just staying out there. I'm actually coming in at different times.
Right.
And yeah.
So all the way around. And so the changes in your mindset and your ability now to move forward with things, that just has to feel like such a weight lifted.
Yeah.
Or does it feel as intense as it looks? Because to me it's a drastic change. And you're like, huh?
I don't know.
Just feel better now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So not only are you taking care of the things that you need to in a new way, but you're also working with us in a new way, which is really just wonderful, because it's not... Because sometimes it gets really crazy around here, right? And if I were to say, hey, would you get this out for me? There would be times before you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't know what to do. You would know the thing. You would know what getting it out means. You'd know what all my words mean, even the sentence, but it was hard for you to actually put that into action. And that's just a stupid example, but it is the case where now...
Like, you want to explain that kind of example, though, in my thought process, hey, could you please get out a pot for us to cook green beans in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How big is the can of green beans? How
mm-hmm.
big of a pot do you need? Do you want one of the non-stick ones compared to a metal one?
Mm-hmm.
And none of that stuff is said in that sentence.
Correct.
A lot of it is inferred, both from past experience and from whatever. But it's not easy to get to the point where I know what to do.
I agreed. And I do speak like that. And there have been times where you would just not be able to be in the kitchen to do this because that was too much. It was too vague. It was too many questions, too many... Yeah. And what I noticed the other day is I must have done exactly that. Was a vague statement or question. And you ask the question. Do you want this one or do you want this one? Oh, I want that one. Yeah. Perfect. All right, let's cook.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. When I say that something is drastically different in you, I'm saying to that degree. It's the difference in not accomplishing something versus, you're right in it in that moment and taking care of it. Yeah.
And it's funny. At work, whenever I'm with, or I've trained at least 2 other people that are in the same position that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they have any questions or what have you, or want some clarification, but they don't necessarily want to bring it up to one of the higher ups, they come to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all embarrassed about it because they just don't know what to do about it. The thing I always bring up, ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
We can't, no one can help you if you don't ask what it is you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
good advice.
And it's, I mean, the experience that you just explained,
Mm-hmm.
what did I do?
Mm-hmm.
I asked you this pot or this one.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't know what you would want if I don't ask questions.
Right.
And it sounds ridiculously easy. To me, it is, at this point, ridiculously easy.
Mm-hmm.
But as it goes to show from at work, it's not always a thought that occurs to people.
Mm-hmm.
Even people that don't have autism.
Mm-hmm.
So to know, if you don't know something, ask.
Well, and I would say too, though, that Josh, the issue that you had for a big chunk of your life is that not knowing would overwhelm you. And so that when you started to get overwhelmed, you wouldn't even know what question to ask sometimes. You wouldn't know, it would just feel too big. So even if there's a situation that seems like it's simple, what you had been dealing with in your life is just something that was nothing simple. It was also multifaceted, and it would easily overwhelm you because there was so much information, so many aspects to it that you didn't even know where to start. You didn't even know how to begin to start.
Yeah.
Or to ask a question. Well, which question?
Yeah.
Because there's so many parts of this, I don't even, you would say, I don't even know where to start. So, yeah, absolutely. So going from there to where you are now, which is, you're sitting here saying, ask the questions. Ask the questions.
Yeah, because if you don't ask them, people aren't going to know to explain something more.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And maybe your explanation or of not knowing what question to ask,
Mm-hmm.
I think that maybe having or sitting down with, if I had known a cluster of questions to ask, to have prepared to ask, to figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
what question to ask, to figure out what question to ask, I think that having that kind of a system would have been very beneficial at that time. And so this is me just thinking about that starting right now, and I don't even know if there is something like that.
Well, you can tell me this, because what comes to mind for me is that you would have said, if I had said, these are some questions you can ask, do you think back then that you would have been able to go with that? Or would you have said, that won't work because there's too many variables in each scenario and not every question is appropriate for the scenarios and they're not always the same?
Then have a general list would be my answer. A general list of questions that you could have on hand to use as a helpful guide.
Mm-hmm.
Not as this is what you do, but as these are some possible questions to try and help.
Because there are some things that are happening right now with you that I didn't realize didn't stick through the years. Since we're talking about cooking something, that another thing to do was to for people that are living with somebody that has autism is to think about how we're saying stuff. Is it a complete thought? Is it descriptive enough? Is it enough information that we're sharing? Because if I were to say to you, all right, we're going to cook some green beans, so we need the smallest pot with a handle. I mean, that might help you to know which one it is that we're talking about. If you have different colors, to say which color.
Yeah.
You know?
Or if you have two smallest that are the same size, but one's non-stick, one's metal.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that will be helpful.
Yeah.
And those are just things that, I mean, through the years that we are in the kitchen so often together, we just do this stuff, you know? So
Yeah.
I don't think about... I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting to
Oh.
find that out.
Yesterday, you just reminded me of something.
Mm.
So yesterday, the kids were here for dinner. They had their own thing or whatever, for whatever reason. I came home a little bit later than that, but as Maddie, which is my niece, Connor's sister, had come in there, and RJ was cooking her a grilled cheese sandwich. And he had been cooking a lot of different stuff at the same time. And whenever he got her grilled cheese sandwich off of it, it was a little bit burnt on the one side.
Mm.
And I forgot about it until just now. She said, Daddy, you gave me a black sandwich. Which is what...
My specialty.
Yeah, whenever I was little. Yeah.
You would ask for a black sandwich.
Because I didn't know they were supposed to be grilled cheese.
You didn't know they were called grilled cheese. You just know them as black sandwiches.
Because you burnt them. Yeah. And it was...
so funny.
She said it in such a way that I don't know if anyone else even heard it. But I heard it, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's so funny.
And so, yes, growing up with you cooking and teaching me how to cook as well later on.
Mm-hmm.
Not even later on. I was in middle school or something like that.
Yeah, you've always loved to cook.
Yeah.
Yeah, your
Yeah.
sister's the one that hated it. She didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Yes, you've always liked to cook. But yeah, I can cook a lot of things. And I do Southern food really well.
Yeah.
Grilled cheese, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a black sandwich.
Yeah. You've gotten better.
Yes.
You have gotten better.
A
lot better.
Yes.
Now it's maybe 2 or 3 out of 10.
You give me a lot of credit. I don't know if it's that good. But, maybe 50-50.
If there's nothing else going on
yeah.
for food, yes.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That's funny.
Yeah. But having a list of general questions that can be adapted, like insert situation here kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
to figure out what questions should be asked.
Mm-hmm.
Having a list like that, I think, would be really helpful to be able to have the right question be asked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good recommendation.
I don't know if it's been done. I really don't know. But that would be my one solution, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm proud of you. You have worked really hard to get here. And I can't even explain what it's like seeing you and just feeling the difference in you, in your energy, in your the way you carry yourself. It just, there's like this light went on, and you had this aha, and it's really helped to you just, I don't know, you just seem so much, you're balanced and happy. Yeah, it's really cool.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm proud of you and I'm happy for you.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I'm happy for me.
Now you don't have to deal with my...
All right. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I hope that this podcast has helped you out. It's really helped me. So, Josh, you're always so good at articulating,
I'm not always so good at it.
You get there.
I get there, yes.
You get there.
Yeah, finding the right words is the difficult part.
Mm-hmm.
One of the difficult
parts.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah. But thanks for being so open about this, and I really appreciate it. Everybody, thanks for hanging out with us, and you can find more podcasts at the website. It's sonyaking.com, SONYAKING. You give us 5 stars wherever you listen to us, that would be awesome. It helps us to be seen and heard by more people, so we appreciate that. Yeah. And we hope that you're healthy and happy and enjoying this beautiful day. And we will speak with you next week. Love you.
Bye.